Hello and welcome to another video. Today we're going to dive a little deeper again into the mind of the buyer. But before we do that, I have a question for you today. When was the last time you saw a promotional message? Was it 5 seconds ago? A minute? Maybe 15 minutes? Well, whether or not you've had any exposure to marketing theory or strategy, you've likely heard of the concept of the rule of seven. And the rule of seven is an old marketing adage that indicates that you have to see an impression 7 times before it will even start to go through your short-term memory and go into that workbench midterm memory for us to even make an impression on you that will be lasting. So if you think about that, we've also have recent experts who tell us that you receive a minimum of 6,000 to 10,000 impressions, meaning ads, per day. Now, I can crunch numbers with the best of them. Trust me, I do it for a living, but I am no mathematician. Let me tell you, though, if you see 10,000 advertisements or promotional impressions a day, do you really think you're going to remember something after only seeing it 7 times? Likely not. So what we're going to attempt to do today in this video is to help you better understand how does memory work for a consumer? How do we as marketers get them to comprehend our message and turn that into some midterm and longer term memory so that they will learn about our products and we will be there when they are ready to have a need and go through that buying process. So today we're going to focus on influencing consumers' comprehension. We're going to learn about that memory and the 3 different types of memories, how it's stored, how do consumers learn, and then how can we use some association tips to better get those consumers to translate that memory into comprehension and get them to buy our products and services a little bit quicker. So we're going to start off with a model, and the model really is how we process information. It's been around forever. There is nothing new here, and if you have marketing experience, you've seen it a million times. The first thing that we need to do is we need to expose the audience to a message. We have to use some sort of stimuli to capture the attention of that person we are seeking to speak to. Once you capture the attention, you then try to get that receiver to comprehend the message as you intended it to be, and then we elaborate on that. But there's a little tricky thing called memory. And now memory goes through that whole process, and we have 3 different types of memory. We have short-term or sensory memory. We go into the short-term memory where we work really hard, and then the longer-term memory that sticks with us for a long time. So just keep in mind that there is a process by which this happens. So let's start off with comprehension. So as marketers, we know that our messaging, our positioning, the way we distribute our products, how we develop them, the packaging, all of those things are important. And we want to make sure that the message we intend is being comprehended by that receiver. So comprehension just is simply the way we use our minds to assign meaning to something. And so how do we understand what's being placed in front of us? So there's several factors affecting customer comprehension. So let's start off with how this works. Okay, so the first thing, as you know, as marketers, we have to be in front of some eyeballs, right? Our target audience. And we do that in a variety of ways. And in the most common way is messaging. So let's take me, for example. I had a family emergency. I had to leave during finals week to go be with my dad. And I hopped on a plane the next day, and I really didn't think much about my trip. I was kind of in a numbness state. And so I get to the airport. I have about 10 minutes to eat something. I hadn't eaten all day. And so my need was I'm hungry, right? So I pop open on my Instagram for whatever reason. I knew I wasn't going to be able to have the seconds to go grab something. And this Oreo picture pops up. And I look at it, and yeah, I'm looking at those scrumptious Oreos that I could purchase over the internet. I don't think I can find the fancy ones in the airport. Certainly, I could probably get an Oreo at the convenience part of the airport. But look at that. It's telling me not only do I have a need because I'm hungry. Oh my word, this is the week before the holidays. My family celebrates Christmas. And so one of the things you do when you're a mom is you stock, sorry for those of you who still believe in Santa. You get stocking stuffers. You know what I'm talking about. And so no longer do I have a need just to be hungry. I have a need to get myself in gear to get some stocking stuffers. Okay, so yes, who is the receiver? In this case, it's me. The person who is consuming that message, whether they're target audience or not, you are the receiver. So there I am. And then the next thing is, the message has to resonate with that receiver. But then there's something that in the marketing biz we call noise. And noise is that environment, everything around you. I am in the airport during the holiday season and there's a bunch of people. I'm hungry. I've got stuff going on. I got to run, literally run to catch my connection. So the environment that we're in also affects whether or not I'm going to comprehend that message from Oreo wasn't just about me going to the convenience store to curb my hunger, but what am I going to do to stock the stuffings for my children, even though they're old. Okay, so what do? As marketers, we develop strategies on how to reach people, right? We know who our audience is. We've got a target audience, but there's certain physical characteristics, whether it is in your product design, your placement on the internet, if you're using an e-commerce store, inside a retail location, if you're doing a pop-up, if you're just talking to somebody. There's physical characteristics that we can use in our communications, our messaging to resonate with that buyer. So I've got 3 examples here, and these are some, if you've taken any promotions management or digital marketing classes, you're very familiar with these. But there's some tricks that we use to get you to comprehend. One would be the intensity of the imagery of that message itself. You cannot see in these 3 examples that these are actually videos. And the intensity of the video or the image that I see, is it colorful? Is it engaging? Does it resonate with that need I have? At this point, it's hunger, but I also have the need to do some holiday shopping. The intensity of the message will help you comprehend. Secondly, there is a whole discipline around fonts, and that is called visual rhetoric. And visual rhetoric helps you define a story about what you're trying to communicate. I love teaching visual rhetoric because I believe that copywriting is probably one of the most important functions in getting someone to act. So the font that they've used in this case, you can't miss it. And the call to action is buy now. You're going to miss out before the price increases. So not only is it kind of a cool imagery, and it's actually showing me in this case how you can chop up that fruit real quickly, it's using the cue of buy now to help me comprehend that if I don't do that now, something's going to happen. Colors, the use of colors. There's a whole discipline around color psychology, and blues mean trustworthy and conservative, and reds are bold and aggressive, and yellows are sunshiny and happy, and greens are organic, and all of the wonderful things that we know about color can also help you set the tone to help people comprehend what your message is. So we use these physical characteristics, and the last one here I show you is numbers. We remember numbers, particularly if you're towards that end of your buying journey and you're looking to make a decision or not. The numbers will help you cement that comprehension into your mind. So we start off with those physical characteristics that are so important in our messaging. Then we have to think about, as the ads I showed you were pretty clean and clear, but they were kind of busy. So when you're in an environment of chaos, or you've got a lot of noise going around, you might want to consider messaging to somebody in a very simplistic manner. So here we've got the classic McDonald's Wi-Fi message that they have used French fries to show you the iconic Wi-Fi icon. Very simple. I know I can do my work if I sit in a McDonald's, right? They don't even have to use any words. It is so clever and simple. Now, Fanta, on the other hand, has taken an approach of busyness or complexity. And, I'm reading through this thing. I don't know what the heck they're trying to sell me here. Something, just tear off a piece of this page, pop in your mouth. What does that have to do with orange soda? I don't know. But let me tell you, if I'm in the airport, I'm going through that ad. Not that it's a bad strategy for the right target audience. It's just not for me at the time. So let's focus then on the source. The source is you all and your strategy. How are you going to define the message that best resonates with that target audience? So we use some tricks such as likability. You will see celebrities that are beloved, or maybe a TikTok star that you're familiar with. Attractiveness, unfortunately, is something that we use in advertising. The world is changing. People, you be you. Don't, try not to use the sexy models all the time. Not such a good strategy, but it is something that is used in sourcing. Expertise. Does the person know what they're talking about or not? Are you just fly by night, slap your label on a product and put it on your store and think you're going to make some passive income? Haha. Don't do that. You need to be trustworthy, and you need to have congruence. So I've got a couple of ads here to demonstrate that. I'm going to show you one. Hopefully this doesn't get flagged. But I love this ad with Ed Sheeran.
I've got an idea for a Heinz ketchup commercial. I was at this super posh restaurant. Super posh. The type of place that has chandeliers and paintings on the wall and way too many forks. I think classical music was playing. But maybe it was jazz. No, definitely classical. The hostess walks up to me and she says, "Mr. Sheeran, is this your first time dining with us?" And I say, "Yep." The waiter comes over. He's telling me about the specials. Super fancy vegetables, fancy sauces. I said, "Sounds fancy." So fast forward and the food comes. The waiter goes on to tell me, "We are proud to present this farm-to-table blah, 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 posh and fancy blah, 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 with a side of blah, blah, blah." The food looked good. I just thought there was something missing. So I reach into my bag and I take out the only thing that can complete me. And at that point, the whole world came to a stop. And the waiter was screaming through his eyes. So that's my idea. Do you want to do it?
My wife's like, "What'd you do?" After 6 months doing this, she's seeing all the changes that are happening.
Whatever. All right. Okay. So there you have it. Wasn't that an amazing representation of likability, trustworthiness? Ed Sheeran, how could you not? Okay. for those of you who are foodies, I know you probably got a cringe when you saw him take out that Heinz ketchup bottle, but think of the target audience. And how many times have you put ketchup on your food to like have that homey, comforting feel because you might not feel quite as confident in that food source. So hope you enjoyed that. If it gets ripped off of my email, of my video, I will put that link in the description for you and on Canvas. All right, so those are some tricks that we use to get you, the source, to pay attention and understand and comprehend our message. Now let's talk about you. You are the receiver, or the consumer is the receiver, and we have a lifetime worth of experiences, 10,000 a day of promotional messages. So we make comprehensions based on past experiences, how involved we are with the product. I have the DoorDash here, habits. I remember during the pandemic, it would not be unusual for me to order from DoorDash 4 or 5 times a week. That became a habit that I had to break because it was just too expensive for me. Sorry, DoorDash. But my expectations are also very, very important. So if you have prior knowledge of a product or a service and you have expectations and you have some habits, these are things that we use to help us comprehend the message that you're placing in front of us. I talked about environment and how busy the airport was and the timing, how I had to get quickly to the plane. So I needed to have a short, pithy, on-point message for me to even notice and comprehend what they were trying to do to see how that would solve my need. There is, from behavioral economics and psychology, there is a concept called framing. And framing is a tool that we use as communicators to place messages in a way to help consumers cognitively make a decision. So you probably noticed, you'll see on my screen here that I have the very same product. It looks like a Yoplait yogurt. It could be whatever flavor you have, but you'll notice there's 2 different messaging here. So let's say you're trying to be healthy. There's 2 different ways that you can position the amount of fat in that container of yogurt. You could say 20% fat, or you could say 80% fat-free. And depending who you are, your psychological makeup, your past experiences, your habits, you will likely resonate with one of those 2 messages. However, it means the same thing. So it is, how do we position that message for you? And I do this all the time. I am a trained marketer. I have been in this business for 30 years. Every time I go to the grocery store and I go to the ground beef section, what do you think I do? I look at that percentages of fat, and I look at fat-free, and I mentally comprehend that based on the way they frame that information for you. So let's get into the nitty-gritty of memory. So memory is a very tricky thing. Our brains are immensely complicated, and that makes our jobs really hard. So let's simplify this into 3 types of memory. So we start off, again, with our stimuli. Is the stimuli a message that is going to be on a social media platform? Is it a billboard? Is the stimuli of all the things I have in my pantry, the packaging of the product or service, so I end up consuming something that's been sitting around for a while? So that is the information that we as marketers create and present. So where does that go? Out of your 6,000 to 10,000 messages a day that you see, those impressions, they head into your, what we call sensory memory. And sensory memory is anywhere from 15 to 30 seconds long. It is super short. We have unlimited capacity for sensory memory. However, the duration of storing that memory is super smart and super short. And it is very unconscious. So our mind is working hard, taking and deciding whether you're going to store the memory or not, or hand the baton off to the second phase, which is our short-term memory or our workbench memory. Now this memory this is where we're going to decide right now whether I am going to keep that memory and work on it. So this is really where the comprehension comes into play. It has limited capacity, and limited duration as to how long it will stay. But we as marketers use tips and tricks to code that message and recode it enough times for that memory to work hard enough to translate it into the long-term memory, which is the things that you always remember. And you have unlimited capacity for long-term memory. It's often based on senses, on making associations with other pieces of information that you have. But the long-term memory also is a bit of a workbench where it could be stored forever, or maybe you need some help again when you see that message by the workbench to help you. Oh yeah, I remember that, but you know how it is when something's on the tip of your tongue or on the side of your brain and you're like, I know it's there. Help me. Then the workbench helps you retrieve that or not. So these are the three important things that you need to know. And we work as marketers and communicators in all of those different messages. So how do we do this? How do we translate this into success? We have to make memory processing easier for the source or the person receiving it. Well, there's lots of different ways that we can do this, but four of the key ways are repetition. So remember, you have to see something 7 times, blah, 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 probably 1 million. I'm making that up. But we use repetition. You're going to see your messages in a variety of different mediums. So for those of you who think that social media is the only important channel, I am going to burst your bubble and say, you can do that. However, if you use alternate or many different types of channels of communications, it's going to make that workbench work a lot harder to store that into the long-term memory. So you can use also things like repetition. That's why you hear da 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 da, I'm loving it, or whatever your favorite tagline is, just do it. That's why we use taglines. That is why we have slogans. That is why we use senses, such as hearing it and seeing it and smelling it and tasting it and touching it, all of those different things. If we have some meaningful coding, will help us remember. Repetition also, some of you may have remembered that Energizer Bunny keeps going and going and going. They're not only using the repetition, they're also using color. Remember the physical characteristics, they're using sound, they're using dual coding and meaningful coding to help you remember. Now, another piece of information that I've used quite a bit, because I've done some work, quite a bit of work in financial services, is a concept called chunking. And chunking is good when there is a bunch of information for a consumer to remember. So you try to give them little bits of pieces. This is also why we chunk up our videos into small portions, like for Reels or Stories or TikToks, because we are trying to code that information in a bite-sized piece for people to understand. So you may know the last 4 digits of your credit card or the last 4 digits of your social security number, but you'll notice when those are placed in front of you, there's always a bit of a space between the numbers to help you remember. We call that chunking. In modern day, we call it bite size. All right, so we try to make memory easier. We also do this a little bit through tagging. So you have all heard of a hashtag, right? Hashtag, that's nothing new. Don't think it was started with social media, because tagging has been around for a long time. Tagline. That's your slogan. So, but hashtags are something, it's a little piece of bite-sized information that you use to get noticed. And the reason why we use hashtagging on the internet or tagging any one of these, coding any one of these messages, is that so you will be seen. So the Google algorithm will pick you up and help you organically grow, or even use it to help the customer remember, oh, I may not remember that product, but I remember Pound Share Coke, or I remember Pound Like a Girl, or Pound Believe in Me, or whatever that is. Oh, I said pound. I'm dating myself. Hashtag. So we also use a concept called nostalgia. Right now, there's a Liberty Mutual commercial that literally talks about the concept of nostalgia helps you remember. It helps you trigger that long-term memory and bring it forward. So nostalgia with icons, people, bringing you back to your family memories, all of those cool things. And then rumination is one of those things that we get into your head and make you think about it over and over and over again. Sometimes we do this with pricing. Sometimes we do this with sound, etc. But rumination is one of those things that you're going to think really hard about. So those are just some simple ways of making memory easier. Now I'm going to talk about a concept called associative network. So we all associate with images, with messages. We make our own meaning. And remember, we want to code our messaging in a way that the meaning is translated in the way we want the receiver to perceive it. So I own a company called toastog.com with my 22-year-old son, Eli, and one of the things that we have in our product line is a lot of graphic tees and hoodies, and our concept is all around celebrating life and, sucking the life out of every day. So for 2023, my son had designed a hoodie that we call the Year of the Toast. And the Year of the Toast obviously could be a piece of toast, or it could be a bottle, or a like a drink of some sort. So he has, when he was designing this sweatshirt or this hoodie, he has champagne bottle as sort of that association that we made to celebrating. And so in this case, he's got a design here where it's a 2023 Year of the Toast martini glass that's spilling out some of the champagne, and on the back it spills into the shape of the toast, which is really our branding for suck the life out of the everyday. So we use associations to also help you trigger memory or make association with something that's positive in your life. So that said, I know, long video, a lot of information, but I think it's really important because you're not going to be able to have an effective strategy if you don't work through those 3 areas of the brain and you cut through all that clutter of the 6,000 to 10,000 messages and help that person not work so hard to translate that short-term memory into the long-term memory. So I want you to think about how you might be influenced as a consumer by things of association, by senses, by environment, all of those different things that we thought about today. So as always, Kristy, Grayson, reach out to me if you have any questions. Feel free to email me through Canvas, through my university email. Follow me on Instagram or LinkedIn, and I've got you. And I will answer any questions that you may have. If for some reason my video gets clunked out of this, the commercial that I showed, I will post that link in Canvas and I will post it in the description on YouTube. So goodbye, everybody. Happy story memory and good luck with your consumer behavior and marketing strategies. Take care.